Hello and welcome to the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast, a high vibe space where we talk about all things spirituality, manifestation, raising our vibrations, and walking away from the manifestation block that is alcohol. Whether you're newly sober, sober curious, or you've been sober for a long time, this is the place for you if you want to learn more about spirituality, manifestation, and how letting go of alcohol can make you so much more powerful at manifesting. It's time to stop drinking, start living, raise our vibrations, and step into our manifestation power. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alcohol Free Vibes podcast. I'm joining you today feeling tired but happy because yesterday I competed in the Shrewsbury Dragon Boat Race, which was to raise money for Seven Hospice. And I competed in a team with my CrossFit gym, SY1. And I'm very, very happy to announce that we won. It's so funny because I always forget that I'm actually quite competitive. I always tell people, when I was younger, I was very competitive, but now I'm older, I'm really not. And then I remember when I do things like this that I really am. It was so fun. We all got really stuck into it, and it was just a great day, bonding with my fellow CrossFit buddies, and obviously super exciting when we won our gold medals. So you'll probably see that all over my social media in the next few days, if it's not up there already by the time this airs. I hope you are having a lovely week and that you've had a lovely weekend too. Before we cut to this week's guest, just a reminder of offerings I have up for you at the moment. So just reminding you that in September, I start the next round of Sober and Soulful, which is a 6-week immersive course on how to let go of any FOMO that you have around stopping drinking alcohol and how to let go of the manifestation block that is alcohol so you can step into your manifestation power in sobriety. So we learn all about why alcohol provides zero benefit and dissolving any brainwashing around that. And we also learn about why alcohol is a manifestation block and how to ramp up and consciously step into the manifestation process in sobriety so that you can really make the most of that conscious manifestation. So if you'd like to join the next cohort, if you start now, if you want to get your spot booked now, there are limited spaces. And if you get your spot booked now, then you can choose to pay in installments between now and the first week of September. The price is £333 for the 6-week course, and it involves 6 Zoom calls one a week, 6 overall, with meditation audios and workbooks, and of course the Sober and Soulful community. And once you've done the Sober and Soulful course, you then do get free access to all following rounds of Sober and Soulful, so you can revise and dip back into the community as much as you need to. And I do have members that love coming back each round, and they're really inspiring for the new members as well, as they can share their experiences with letting go of alcohol and manifesting. If you'd like some more inspiration around this course, then do check out some of my previous podcast episodes where I interview alumni members of Sober and Soulful. And of course, if you want to check out my full offer suite, then do check out my Stand Store link where I have free offerings as well as paid offerings, and of course how to book in for a free discovery call with me to discuss one-to-one coaching options. So in this week's episode, I interview Susan Laurie, who has come to share with us her story about how she went from being, as she describes it, rock bottom in terms of her relationship with alcohol and her drinking, and how she went through rehab and recovered and came to the place that she is now, where she is now supporting vulnerable people like her in their sober journey. She talks about how we're all vulnerable when we are desperately trying to stop drinking. And she has made it her life's mission to safeguard, basically, anyone who is in a similar position to her, and to inform and train and educate coaches like myself, and and people who are looking to employ coaches to make sure that everyone is behaving in a moral and safe way to support all. So her story is super inspiring because she talks about how she came through and dealt with her own addiction, which is inspiring in itself, but then how she has kind of stepped into her dharma, into her life's purpose to make the world and this scene a better place for all. So I hope you find this interview interesting and inspiring. And without further ado, let's meet the lovely Susan. Hello, Susan. How are you today?
I'm really good, thanks, Anneka. And I'm just it's so nice to meet you, and it's so nice to be here to have what is going to be just a lovely chat.
Yeah, likewise. I'm really excited to meet you too. And I think what you've come to talk to us about today is really, really important. You've got a very important mission that you're on. Would you like to begin by just introducing yourself and what your mission is?
Yeah, I'm Susan Laurie, and for a long time I had I started from being, just somebody who liked to drink and then loved to drink and then was a heavy drinker and then a problem drinker. But it it developed into what became a very serious alcohol dependence, which in the end, I lost everything to alcohol. I almost died because of alcohol. So I've been sober 8.5 years. I don't actually consider myself in recovery. That part of my life is over. I'm living a full life as somebody who used to have an alcohol addiction. Um, but because of my experiences when I was, trying to get sober, and when you get into the position that I did, you don't get there overnight. It happens over time, and it can happen really slowly and by stealth. So I did, do all of the things that you would expect somebody to do over the years, from right in the beginning, maybe talking to my GP with concerns and having counselling, to then as things progressed, going to things like Alcoholics Anonymous, and then when things got worse, being, drug kicking and screaming into rehab, stuff like that. But over the years, as well as that, what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're in that position, especially if you're a parent, you often don't keep going back to say your doctor, because you don't want to be on the radar in case you reported. That was my main fear, having my son taken off me. So as well as doing all the traditional things that I've mentioned, often you turn to private practices. Lots of times when I'd had a drink, I would get on the computer hating myself and Googling getting sober, or, beat addiction or whatever. Because you don't want to go back to your doctor, because you do these searches looking for people who will help, it can, for some people, make you a bit vulnerable, and it certainly happened to me. And I found myself over the years, spending a lot of money, a lot of my money, my family's money, borrowing money, to try and get sober. The more desperate I got and the more frightened I got, that I couldn't get a grip on it. And, with in a lot of those cases, what the treatments that I had didn't work. And then what I found happened was, because I'd wasted money, I drank on the guilt of wasting money, so I ended up in a worse situation. So now that I've been sober 8.5 years, and what I've set out to do, and I hope it's in a very positive way, is try and shed a spotlight on what is becoming quite a big industry in this sober coaching, sober community, where people pay money to be part of that, and just try and make people realize, educate people really, that some people who might be trying to sign up for things may be actually dependent on alcohol, be quite vulnerable because of it, and just maybe to make people think about screening those people out and pointing them in the direction of, maybe more specialist treatment. It's all about, working together, I think, because we all want the same thing. We all want to limit the damage that alcohol does to people. So why don't we all work together just to, make sure standards are high, make sure people understand about dependence, and people like I was, being so desperate that they'll sign up for anything that they read will help them.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just for, I don't know if I've told you this already, Susan. I won't have told my listeners this, but in my discovery call, which is your initial free consultation, that's the first thing I'm doing, is assessing if you're dependent and if I need to refer you, basically. Because as you know, if you're physically dependent on alcohol, it's not safe to just stop cold turkey. You need to go and seek medical detox. And I agree, it's such an important responsibility as a sober coach. Of course, we want to help people, but that's where our roles need to be grounded in service, in what is the best thing for this person. Sometimes it is signing up for coaching, and I've got experience of supporting lots of people give up drinking and not miss it at all, and that's wonderful. But you're absolutely right. People who come to sober coaches are already vulnerable, already feeling quite panicked. I remember feeling like that at one point with drinking. Absolutely panicked. Like, what am I going to do? I need to stop this. And it's a huge responsibility that we have as coaches when managing people who are already dysregulated, not thinking straight, and making sure that we're acting from a position of care and service, and that we're safeguarding people. I'm just going to reference actually Stephanie Chivers, who I did my risk assessment training with for this. So she's been a great support to me for that. So can I just ask then, this is amazing. I know you've kind of put together what is called the Sober Code, haven't you, in order to address this issue. Can you tell us more about the Sober Code?
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned Stephanie, because Stephanie has supported Sober Code as well. So what I set out to do, just to raise awareness of this, it was to set out really a voluntary code of ethics to do exactly what you've just explained that you do, and that I know lots of sober coaches do. And in that discovery call, screen out people that could be dependent, because like you say, it would be dangerous if they just stopped. But on the other hand as well, it could also do more harm than good if they sign up to something, spend some of their family money trying to work a program that isn't actually suitable for them, and then when it doesn't work, they maybe drink on the money, on the guilt of the money,
feel that sense of failure, and
feel that sense of failure, feel that sense of guilt. I know what it's like, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the worry. So I set up Sober Code, and it literally is what it says, like this voluntary code. On the very first page, there's a list of things, just that people, that we hope that sober coaches read and think, yeah, that's me. And I mean, for the majority of them, that's what they'll be doing anyway. But as well as that, on the Sober Code website, there are also resources which Sober Code only recently launched, so we're hoping to get more resources on there. Things like, training courses that incorporate a section on dependence and the questions that you ask, signposting people. There's signposting on there. So Sober Code has been set up to support sober coaches and sober communities to sort of, almost in the way that doctors have to do, let's do no harm here. Let's do our utmost to give the best that we can to these people. And I really want to stress to you and to anyone listening that I wish sober coaching had existed years ago. In the bulk of my sort of problem drinking before I went into dependence was in the 1990s. I worked in an industry where alcohol was a big part of the culture, and I wish sober coaching had been around there, because when you start to worry about your drinking and think, yeah, this doesn't feel very good, and I'm hungover a lot, or it's impacting on stuff. There was no, apart from going to Alcoholics Anonymous, or apart from, going to your doctor, there was nobody was talking about it. But now people like you are taking away the taboo, and doing fantastic stuff. So the sober coaching industry, the sober communities online that you see are brilliant. But I think it just needs a bit of awareness about that there will be people like me who are a bit desperate, a bit scared, a bit frightened, who might be and even drunk, signing up to things online. So yeah, that's what sober code is.
I love this. And I'm going to throw the S word out now, which no, I'm not going to swear, the safeguarding word. As I was saying to you before we press record, I'm from an education background. So safeguarding is a very familiar word to me, and anyone coming from a medical background or a caring background will be familiar with this word. But we were agreeing before, weren't we, that really anytime we're dealing with people, safeguarding is the most important thing. And we're dealing with vulnerable people here, and there's a huge responsibility that comes with that. And as you will know from probably seeing my things online or engaging with my podcasts, my whole methodology is grounded in spirituality. So it's not religious like AA is. It's sort of more broad reaching, I think, than religion. But absolutely, the moral foundation and the foundation of service is integral. And karma, everything comes, like, you give out good, you get back good. You can't really go wrong with it, can you?
And I think, you've just hit the nail on the head there. It's about having integrity. It's about having, thinking, empathy, morals, thinking about this is a person, this is a human being you're dealing with, who is feeling maybe scared, maybe confused about, what I used to really, I used to love alcohol and I used to have fun with it. And now it's making me feel rubbish. The people that you're dealing with have come to you for a reason. So let's do the best by them. Let's be kind. Let's just do the utmost to make them feel good about themselves again. But also be aware that there might be some people who've sort of crossed over that line, like I did, into being dependent on alcohol, into it being dangerous to just give up suddenly. And let's look after them as well. Let's signpost them to the help that they need.
Yeah, and just to add into that, at no point are we talking about turning people away or saying, you're too I hate this, I'm saying this word in inverted commas because I don't think anyone is broken, but you're too broken for me to help. So if we send people away, it's, I'm going to signpost you to the people you need to see first. Come back to me in a few months when you're no longer dependent, and I will help you with the mindset stuff, no problem, but I need to look after you properly and do it in the right order. I'm also just going to go back to something you're saying, which I completely resonate with as well, about how this is such a new space. And I first stopped drinking when I was 25. I'm now nearly 39 next week. And I stopped drinking using the Alan Carr method. I don't know if you've heard of it the first time, and I found it very, very helpful. But I had the same thing that tripped me up. There was no sober scene. There was no there was a stigma to not drinking, and there were no sober coaches. And it's a massive resource that we have now, and it's so wonderful. But as you say, it's about having that moral integrity and that awareness around what is the correct practice, right?
Exactly. And the other thing that you've so eloquently said is, don't, you would, it was so important to me that anyone, looking at the Sober Code website, it's made clear, if you decide that you can't work with somebody, you would never leave somebody high and dry and just say, I can't work with you, because that would make somebody feel rubbish. It's all about knowing how to signpost people, and being gentle with people, being caring about what happens to them next. And obviously, then they can go and get the help they need, and then come back to you, and then continue that journey, continue that sober journey, which their life is there's a lot. Once you get sober, once I got sober, we've all got so much potential within us, and so much untapped stuff that things that we've maybe blotted out or forgotten that we had. And a sober coach can help us remember that, and help us make the most of that.
On that note, I am going to ask you some questions, excuse me, Susan, about your what's happened in your life since you stopped drinking, because I know from looking at my podcast engagement, my listeners absolutely love listening to people's personal stories about their sober journey, and you've got more sober years under your belt than I have. So I would I'm 2.5 or just over 2.5 years sober, so I would love to hear what's changed in your life. How is your life different? What
Oh,
did you achieve from being sober?
yeah. Oh, wow. Well, you don't get to where I got with, alcohol addiction, alcohol dependence, without causing a lot of damage and chaos, to relationships, to people in your life. So when I first got sober, like I said, it's about 8.5 years ago. My first priority was rebuilding relationships, repairing damage. And after that takes time. People had heard it all before, and this time this treatment's going to work, blah blah blah. So that took time, and that was my priority. But after a couple of years, when I realized how lucky I was, because it's a really sad statistic. When I was in one of the rehabs I was in, they just said in a very casual way, only 3 out of 10 of you are going to survive. It's just an accepted statistic when you're that ill, when you're in addiction. So I realized how lucky I'd been, and I sort of wanted to shout it from the rooftops, and help people like me. So I wrote a book about my experience, but the purpose of that was to give people hope, because it's very easy when the traditional, like things like Alcoholics Anonymous rehab, when you're in and out of them, it's very easy to give up hope.
Yeah.
And blame yourself. And my message was very much one of, keep looking. There's something out there for everyone. Don't ever give up. But then on the back of that, I was on the back, somebody, Professor Sir Ian Gilmore, who heads up the Alcohol Health Alliance, had read my book, and he said, because of, even though he'd had decades working in the field, it helped him understand the progression in real life, what it's like when it gets a grip. And on the back of that, I was invited to give evidence at the House of Lords Commission on Alcohol Harm. And then so I got more involved down that road, the all-party parliamentary group on alcohol harm. I suppose because of a lot of people who become as ill as I did don't survive it, sadly. I've got a lot of useful information up there. So, and it's sort of been born out of that sort of work that I do. The whole sober code thing I've been talking about for a few years to people, to people who make decisions, and everyone was saying, yeah, you're so right, this whole area needs to be tightened up. But it's very difficult for say a large organization to do. So with I spoke to a lot of people, like Stephanie, a lot of sober coaches, people who run sober communities, and it was on after speaking to them that I went about setting up sober code. So my journey has very much been one of, repairing the damage I'd done was first priority, especially with my son, who's now a grown up, but especially his teenage years were sort of blighted by my drinking. But then thinking, you've been so lucky. A lot of people aren't as lucky. So using, my voice, my experience to help people. And that's why, I love talking to you and people, sober coaches and stuff, because my whole point is, I don't want people to to become like me. Let's make this whole sobriety community, and help people to address their drinking, because I might have been, I'm not going to use the word unlucky, but and certainly not unusual, but my what happened to me can happen to people. It can creep up by stealth. So let's help people earlier on who
Yeah.
are maybe, feeling pressured to drink in work situations, in social situations, sober shaming and stuff like that. Let's help people right at the beginning who want to address their drinking.
Yeah, I agree, because alcohol is addictive poison and it doesn't bring any benefits at all. But we've been socially brainwashed to think that it does, and that, to stop drinking, we have to hit rock bottom. And that is changing now. That is changing. And I hope that I am one of the people that is influencing others that not drinking is a gift. And the sooner we realize that, wherever our drinking is, the sooner we realize that, the better, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. You don't need to hit rock bottom. If I wish I'd been able to talk to somebody years ago when I was, I was a professional. I then had my own business, but I knew, I'm drinking on a night, and I'm still going to meetings and stuff. I thought that was fine, but it was making me feel like rubbish. But there's all that stigma, all that fear, all that judgment placed on people who, feel like that. But there's also pressure put on people who even don't think they have a problem. They just think, what? Exactly what you've said. Alcohol doesn't add anything to my life or my personality. I remember years and years ago, when my son was just little, long before I would have dreamt I had a problem. I must have had a glass of wine in my hand, and he was only about 5 or 6, and he said, "Mummy, I like it when you drink tea best." And that was the way he could sort of vocalize just how it made him feel when he saw me drinking wine, because it to him, even though I didn't realize it changed my personality, it did. And he noticed that, and he was only a small child. So alcohol, no matter how much we kid ourselves, it does impact you. It does. It takes away the lovely people that we are inside, our real, authentic selves.
Absolutely. And the scary thing is that there are many people in the UK and other countries who have been and gone, or who are still alive, who will never know what they're really like without drinking. The only memory they have of that was when they were children. And when we stop drinking, you're right, we come back to who we really are. And it is such a pleasure. In fact, we come back to that childlike energy. I describe that when I wake up in the mornings, like fresh from my sleep. I have that childlike feeling of like mild excitement. Oh, a new day. Like, oh, let's have breakfast. How exciting. Let's bounce out of bed. And we just don't feel like that when we drink. In fact, we create this false reality where everything just feels a bit grey and stressful. And then we think that we need to drink to energize that. But it's just the alcohol creating it all to start with, isn't it?
Exactly. And even what you've said about first thing in the morning, people drink because they want to get to sleep. People think, I'm not sleeping very well, I'll have a drink. Your sleep, alcohol has such a negative impact on sleep, and I have never slept better since I got sober. You feel so much better when you wake up. And ready for the day, like you've said.
Yeah, it's so good. So your book then, tell me more about your book.
Oh, the book is called From Rock Bottom to Sober Forever, and it's like I said, it's about hope. It absolutely does describe how I progressed, and I knew when I wanted to write the book, when I decided, because I'd been very lucky, that I had to be incredibly honest. So I do go through, you know, the different stages, because I think a lot of people as well kid themselves that they've sort of reached this plateau with their drinking, like, yeah, I can handle a bottle of wine a night, a half bottle of wine a night. I'm still, you know, and what I was at pains to make people realize, which, you know, I kidded myself about. I thought, you know, I've got this under control, is that there is no permanent plateau. If you don't address your drinking, and if you're drinking heavily and you drink persistently, sort of, things do progress. So it goes, yeah, it goes through the progression, and the different phases that I went through, like I said, from liking a drink to loving a drink to heavy drinking to problem drinking to functioning to then not being able to function. And it's very, very honest. It talks about, you know, me getting sober, and it talks about life after um, getting sober, because, you know, that some people find that difficult as well. You know, how do I live without alcohol? How do I cope without alcohol? And the reason for the book is to give people hope, mainly about treatments, like don't ever give up, don't ever write yourself off, because there's something out there for everyone.
Absolutely. And we're just so lucky that we've got this wealth of growing resources online, and I'm so grateful that we've also got to counterbalance, because this growth's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's abundant, but we've also got this you counterbalancing this growth with morality, with your sober code. So anyone listening, whether you decide to sign up with me or any coach at all, I always say to people, you must go with what lights you up. Let your internal guidance system tell you who's the right coach for you. But look out for the sober code logo on the coach's website. I've got it on my website now. If you see that logo in their email signature or on their website, or you could even ask them if they know about the sober code, it's just a really good way of just checking and like looking after yourself, checking that you're working with someone who is going to be considering these important safeguarding things, right?
Exactly. And everyone who has the logo on their website has personally been in touch with me through the Sober Code website. And you know, there are so many sober coaches like you who are so fully behind this and think, you know, this is a great idea. If people look on the website as well, I spoke about, you know, speaking to people at MPs, people at the Alcohol Health Alliance. There are, you know, they've all given me quotes of endorsement for Sober Code from, you know, there's a couple of MPs on there. So Ian Gilmore at the Alcohol Health Alliance, there's Alcohol Change UK. So there's a lot of people behind Sober Code. And I think, you know, like I said, it's just recently launched. I think it's going to grow and become something that is really important in the sobriety community. So thanks for mentioning it. And yeah, but if people please check it out.
Yeah, and it's such an easy way to just have a little bit of reassurance as well when you're looking at all these people online. Again, often when we are looking for help, we're already feeling anxious. I mean, alcohol makes you so anxious, isn't it? You're feeling anxious,
Yeah.
looking desperately, who can help me? And then you're second guessing yourself. Oh, I don't know. Am I being silly? Is this person going to be the right person for me? Question number one, can I see the Sober Code on their website? And then question number two, which I would say to anyone, do lots of discovery calls with people. Give yourself a little bit of time after the call to think about how you feel about that coach. And your internal guidance system, your body always tells you when someone is a green flag, because they light you up. You know, some people light us up when we speak to them, and some people don't. And that's always, I think, a very good way of navigating things.
Absolutely. You know, everything in life that we do, you know, it has to be the right fit for us, and everyone's different. We're all humans. You know, if you were going to go to the gym and choose a personal trainer, you wouldn't just choose the first one that you found, would you? You'd get the right fit for you.
Yeah, you need to have that relationship, that rapport with that person, which is another reason. So discovery calls are so important. Those of you listening who are like, what is a discovery call? It's basically your free consultation that you have with a coach. Most coaches do them. And the first thing a coach should be doing is assessing you for dependency and if you know how they can safeguard you, basically. Secondly, they're building rapport to see if you're on the same wavelength and that you're going to have a good working relationship. And then thirdly, they might be talking to you about the different things they can offer you, but it's very much a two-way checking that you're a good fit, because we all have clients and coaches who are just perfect for us because we're just on the same wavelength and we can really support those clients. And we all have people who are just not, and it doesn't mean anyone's done anything wrong. It's just not a good fit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've everything you've said there, spot on.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm really honoured that you approve of what I do, and I'm so happy to have you on the podcast and to promote the Sober Code and feel passionately about what you're doing. And I'm sure lots of people listening would love to buy your book and would love to find you online. So first of all, I will be linking Susan's book in the show notes. And is there any? Do you have an Instagram handle or anywhere people can find you online, Susan?
The website is soberforever.co.uk, and that's all about my book and the other things that I do as well.
Fabulous. It's so lovely to meet you, and I do hope to catch up with you again and collaborate with you more in the future. Thanks
so much, Anneka.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you would like to have the chance of winning a free one-to-one coaching session with me, then I'd love it if you could leave me a 5-star review. All you need to do is take a screenshot of the review and send it to me at thrive@coachingbyanneka.co.uk, and I would love to connect with you. If you would like to connect with me further and you'd like to download my free guide, then please go to my website and you can do that and you'll be added to my mail list. Or if you would just like to book in a free discovery call with me, then you can do so via my email address or through my website. All of these links will be in the show notes. And I hope you have a wonderful, magical, sober week, and I will see you this time next week.